Hey people, welcome to Security, Privacy, Risk, Crypto, and FinTech. This is your host Shahid Sharif from Toronto, Canada. I publish my show every week on a Sunday. I've been in IT security, audit, risk, and compliance for over 20 years and since 2013 in blockchain and FinTech. Today we will be talking about how service providers are impacted as a result of GDPR. GDPR, or General Data Protection Regulation, impacts on service providers seems to be a very popular topic. I have published two shows. One explains what is GDPR and other about privacy by design principles. The idea behind this series is to bring awareness about GDPR, and this show focuses on service providers as they seem to be very confused when it comes to GDPR compliance. They are getting questions from the customers and are not sure how to respond to them. Please subscribe to my channel on whichever medium you happen to be using. If you are on YouTube, don't forget to click on the bell icon to ensure you get notified of the latest shows. Don't forget to share it with your friends and make sure you show your appreciation by liking on Facebook, hearts on SoundCloud, thumbs up on YouTube, and a review on Apple Podcasts. For the sake of this discussion, I have divided the service providers into three buckets, namely IaaS, Infrastructure as a Service, PaaS, Platform as a Service, SaaS, Software as a Service. When service providers provide one of these services, they can assume one of the three roles. Role A, when you're storing info about EU citizens as a result of providing the service. Role B, storing info about EU citizens as they are your employees. Role C, a regular service provider role, as in providing service to customers who might be handling EU resident data. So just to qualify, role A is talking about you as a service provider storing EU citizens' information in your systems as a result of providing a service. For instance, if you're providing a voice over IP service, the customer buys a subscription from you, and as a result of them buying a subscription, you collect certain pieces of information from them, and as a result of that, you would fit in the role A. Then the next one down below, role B, you as a service provider are providing services to different organizations, but in order to deliver that service, you have to hire individuals who are your employees, and they happen to be EU citizens residing in EU at the time of employment. So that's why you would be in scope. Role C would be a regular service provider, and it's very close to role A, but the only nuance over here is where you are providing services to an organization. They are collecting customer information to provide the service, and some of their customers happen to be EU residents. So now that we have spoken about the types of service providers and the roles a service provider might assume, let's understand how you're impacted. So the role A and B are easy. If you are a service provider assuming roles A and B, you have no choice but to comply with GDPR compliance. When talking about service providers assuming role C, we will get deeper down below here on what are the differences. So if you are an infrastructure as a service provider where you are providing organizations with just infrastructure, so servers, database, storage, that kind of stuff. Sign a contract to use a bunch of CPU, memory, disk, storage, and all that kind of stuff, but you have no idea what they're storing in it, right? So from that point of view, you are okay. You're just providing a service to an organization, and the responsibility or the falls on that organization to prove to the EU regulator that they are in fact GDPR compliant. The slight difference would be certain IaaS service providers also provide managed IT services as well, where they would manage your OS for you, your network for you, and your storage for you, and your data backups as well. So again, in that case, because you are providing people to do that activity for your customer, the only onus on you as a service provider is that you have to make sure that whenever a customer, and this is part of the normal service delivery, whenever a customer requests some activity to be done, you make sure that that activity is completed, and you advise the customer, yes, indeed, this activity is completed. So the case might be, because you're providing managed backup services, so you are doing backups for the customer. The customer tells you, backup this for me and that for me, right? So you're backing that up, but you have no idea what data is being stored in those backups. So when a request comes to the customer, because from an EU citizen to delete some of the information, or export that information or whatever, if the customer is able to provide that information to the customer, fine. But if the information needs to be deleted or purged, then they will have to reach out to the service provider to tell them, can you go and delete these data backups or data stores, and once you complete that, you're done, right? So but make sure that whenever you get such a request, you respond back to your customer saying that you have indeed completed that activity. So the next one is platform as a service. So over here again, you are providing a platform. So you might be storing some elements of data in your platform itself as a result of that. So when you do that, you have to make sure that the platform you design, it's designed with keeping GDPR requirements in mind, especially the privacy by design concepts, so that you are able to address the requirements from your customer very easily. And the customer also has to make sure that the platform they're selecting is GDPR compliant. So in this case, the service provider could be the data processor, and the customer the data controller. And in this one, the service provider and the customer have to work hand in hand and make sure that all the processes are lined up. The last one, where a lot of onus falls on the service provider itself, is software as a service scenario, where you are providing a certain software to your customers to deliver a certain service that these customers have chosen to offer to their customers. So in this case, what's happening is you have developed an application. Let's say, you can say Salesforce, let's say, right? So you're storing all kinds of data in this application, and the only thing is, because you are subscribing to a service, you have been compartmentalized in that application, so that you have a certain area of that application, but using all the features and benefits of it. So in this case, the application that you're designing, the SaaS application that you as a service provider have designed and offering, you have to make sure that you are addressing all the GDPR requirements, and also keeping in mind the privacy by design aspects of it, because you are, again, the data processor, and the customer still remains the data controller. And the software that is designed should be able to make sure that it addresses the following: the rights of the data subject, the consent, so recording of the consent, such that whenever a customer wants to consent to something. You have to abide by the GDPR requirements, that the requirement is not hidden under long verbiage and things like that. It has to be clearly identified that we are collecting private information from you, and do you agree that we can collect this information. Then the next one is access. So when the customer wants to access the information, you should be able to provide that. Your software should be able to provide that information to the customer in a very easy manner. Same thing goes with deletion. So whenever a request comes in to delete the information, so you will not be deleting the information. You have to provide these tools to your customer that they can do all these activities for their customers that are consuming this service. Same thing with modification, same thing with portability. So the software that you're offering, it has to make sure that export capability is available in it, such that when a customer wants the information, your customer can go in and extract that information and provide it to their customers. Or if there's a mechanism available for their customers to do that themselves, they should be able to do it as well. And as far as the breach notification goes, the same thing holds, right? A data processor will immediately notify data controller, and the data controller will notify the authorities and data subjects of the breach within 72 hours. So if you guys want to find out more, as I said, I have published 2 shows. What is GDPR? And another one I was talking about privacy by design principles. So you can read more about it on my blog. The links are available at the bottom of the show. So the bottom line is, again, a service provider has to ensure the products they offer in the market are GDPR compliant, and design as per privacy by design principles. Currently, there is no GDPR compliance certificate that is issued by independent third parties. So the idea is, when you're doing your activities, you make sure that your software is GDPR compliant. So no one's going to come and attest it for you at this point of time. Plus, there's no clear distinction as in, how will this thing be enforced. So it might be easy for European organizations to or the European regulator to reach out to the European organizations to make sure that if they are in breach, they will take care of them legally, right? But what about outside of EU? How that's going to happen? GDPR will only become an issue for you whenever a breach is reported. So when a breach is reported, everybody's going to come down on you and ask you all kinds of questions. So it's always better to be prepared for the worst case scenario and make sure that you implement all the requirements. Yes, it's going to cost you money and all that, but if you had followed regular security principles and privacy by design principles, which are not new, they've been in existence for a while now. So if you had followed all those requirements, it would not be really an issue for you at this point of time. But like all organizations, people who are producing software, people who are reviewing the design and all that, don't do what they should be doing properly. And this is what happens. You end up in a pickle like this. This podcast is produced by me, Shahid Sharif. Thank you for listening, and don't forget to subscribe on Facebook, Twitter, SoundCloud, YouTube, and Apple Podcast. You can also join my Facebook group for better interaction. The link is in the show notes below. Thank you. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.